Pay close attention. What you're about to see is Bible prophecy being fulfilled.
Welcome to another edition of YPN News, bringing you news as it relates to Bible prophecy and foretold by Yisrael Hawkins. Well, we have a special broadcast today, there, Jeff, as we're going to take a look at something that is kind of defining a time period that we're in based on what those who believe the Holy Scriptures say is the last days or the last generation. We're going to take a look at a video and the signing of the Oslo Accords, the peace accords that took place in 1993, September 13th, 1993. And interestingly enough, Yisrael Hawkins of the House of Yahweh actually wrote about these events that he says was prophesied in the book of Daniel back in the 70s. You know, many people have talked about it, but he was the only one to actually write something and bring it out beforehand in the late 70s, 76. And here we are, you know, almost 20 years later, we see them actually go through this signing of a 7-year peace agreement that actually went into effect 1 month later on October 13th of 1993. But I want you to take a look at this video here that we're going to show you, and gives you an idea of the unfolding of those prophecies that Yisrael Hawkins actually foretold about that he found in the Holy Scriptures.
As of last Friday, today's signing between the PLO and the Israelis was going to be a relatively low-key affair. Well, as low-key as any White House signing can be. Israeli Prime Minister Rabin had decided to stay home. He had absolutely no desire to share any public stage with PLO Chairman Arafat. And the way the U.S. government had left things, the parties themselves could decide who was coming to Washington and who was not. But then, very early Saturday morning, shortly after 6 Israeli time, Rabin got a phone call from U.S. Secretary of State Christopher. Arafat had decided to attend the signing ceremony, and President Clinton was issuing a personal invitation to the Prime Minister to be on hand also. A personal invitation from the President of the United States, especially when your government is getting $3 billion a year in U.S. aid, is not an easy thing to turn down. But if Prime Minister Rabin looked as though there were several places he would rather have been today, now you know why. But we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. They brought the morning shows to the White House today. Tucked away at the bottom of the South Lawn were Charlie and Paula and Bryant and Katie. Sure signs that history was about to be made. Sure signs that history was about to be made. 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 Sure signs that history was about to be made. On this day at the White House, former secretaries of state were a glut on the market. Vance and Kissinger, William P. Rogers from all the way back in the Nixon years, Schultz, Haig, Baker, Eagleburger. When you tally up the years of service, you get a sense of how much effort the United States has invested in helping bring this day to pass. The Palestinians talk about all the loopholes. The Israelis talk about how crystal clear the agreement is.
Really?
Yes.
No agreement. If it were crystal clear, it wouldn't have been agreed to. I think there was deliberate ambiguity in many areas. I think there were many areas that were not mentioned. And I think the details, the fine print, has been left for later. And I think the details, the fine print, has been left for later.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Clinton and Mrs. Rabin. The Honorable George Bush. The Honorable Jimmy Carter and Mrs. Carter. Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency Johan Holt, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Norway, His Excellency Amre Musa, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Egypt, the Honorable Anthony Lake, Assistant to the President for National Security Affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President of the United States, Albert Gore Jr., His Excellency Shimon Peres, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Israel, Mr. Abbas, Member of the Executive Council of the Palestine Liberation Organization. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Warren Christopher, Secretary of State, His Excellency Andrei Khosrow, Minister of the Foreign Affairs of Russian Federation. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Arafat, Chairman of the Executive Council of the Palestine Liberation Organization, His Excellency Yitzhak Rabin, Prime Minister of Israel, the President of the United States.
Shortly after 11 a.m. At this hour, there is no more talk of walking on eggshells or through minefields. This is the event.
Prime Minister Rabin, Chairman Arafat, Foreign Minister Peres, Mr. Abbas, President Carter, President Bush, distinguished guests. On behalf of the United States and Russia, co-sponsors of the Middle East peace process, welcome to this great occasion of history and hope. Today, we bear witness to an extraordinary act in one of history's defining dramas, a drama that began in the time of our ancestors when the word went forth from a sliver of land between the River Jordan and the Mediterranean Sea. That hallowed piece of earth, that land of light and revelation, is the home to the memories and dreams of Jews, Muslims, and Christians throughout the world. As we all know, devotion to that land has also been the source of conflict and bloodshed for too long. Throughout this century, bitterness between the Palestinian and Jewish people has robbed the entire region of its resources, its potential, and too many of its sons and daughters. The land has been so drenched in warfare and hatred, the conflicting claims of history etched so deeply in the souls of the combatants there, that many believe the past would always have the upper hand. Then, 14 years ago, the past began to give way, when at this place and upon this desk, 3 men of great vision signed their names to the Camp David Accords. Today we honor the memories of Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat, and we salute the wise leadership of President Jimmy Carter. Then, as now, we heard from those who said that conflict would come again soon. But the peace between Egypt and Israel has endured. Just so, this bold new venture today, this brave gamble that the future can be better than the past, must endure. Two years ago in Madrid, another president took a major step on the road to peace by bringing Israel and all her neighbors together to launch direct negotiations. And today we also express our deep thanks for the skillful leadership of President George Bush. Ever since Harry Truman first recognized Israel, every American president, Democrat and Republican, has worked for peace between Israel and her neighbors. Now the efforts of all who have labored before us bring us to this moment, a moment when we dare to pledge what for so long seemed difficult even to imagine, that the security of the Israeli people will be reconciled with the hopes of the Palestinian people, and there will be more security and more hope for all. Today, the leadership of Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization will sign a declaration of principles on interim Palestinian self-government. It charts a course toward reconciliation between two peoples who have both known the bitterness of exile. Now both pledge to put old sorrows and antagonisms behind them and to work for a shared future shaped by the values of the Torah, the Quran, and the Bible. Let us salute also today the government of Norway for its remarkable role in nurturing this agreement. But above all, let us today pay tribute to the leaders who had the courage to lead their people toward peace, away from the scars of battle, the wounds and the losses of the past, toward a brighter tomorrow. The world today thanks Prime Minister Rabin, Foreign Minister Perez, and Chairman Arafat. Their tenacity and vision has given us the promise of a new beginning. What these leaders have done now must be done by others. Their achievement must be a catalyst for progress in all aspects of the peace process. And those of us who support them must be there to help in all aspects. For the peace must render the people who make it more secure. A peace of the brave is within our reach. Throughout the Middle East, there is a great yearning for the quiet miracle of a normal life. We know a difficult road lies ahead. Every peace has its enemies, those who still prefer the easy habits of hatred to the hard labors of reconciliation. But Prime Minister Rabin has reminded us that you do not have to make peace with your friends. And the Quran teaches that if the enemy inclines toward peace, do thou also incline toward peace. Therefore, let us resolve that this new mutual recognition will be a continuing process in which the parties transform the very way they see and understand each other. Let the skeptics of this peace recall what once existed among these people. There was a time when the traffic of ideas and commerce and pilgrims flowed uninterrupted among the cities of the Fertile Crescent. In Spain and the Middle East, Muslims and Jews once worked together to write brilliant chapters in the history of literature and science. All this can come to pass again. Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Chairman, I pledge the active support of the United States of America to the difficult work that lies ahead. The United States is committed to ensuring that the people who are affected by this agreement will be made more secure by it, and to leading the world in marshaling the resources necessary to implement the difficult details that will make real the principles to which you commit yourselves today. Together, let us imagine what can be accomplished if all the energy and ability the Israelis and the Palestinians have invested into your struggle can now be channeled into cultivating the land and freshening the waters, into ending the boycotts and creating new industry, into building a land as bountiful and peaceful as it is holy. Above all, let us dedicate ourselves today to your region's next generation. In this entire assembly, no one is more important than the group of Israeli and Arab children who are seated here with us today. Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Chairman, this day belongs to you. And because of what you have done, tomorrow belongs to them. We must not leave them prey to the politics of extremism and despair, to those who would derail this process because they cannot overcome the fears and hatreds of the past. We must not betray their future. For too long, the young of the Middle East have been caught in a web of hatred not of their own making. For too long, they have been taught from the chronicles of war. Now we can give them the chance to know the season of peace. For them, we must realize the prophecy of Isaiah, that the cry of violence shall no more be heard in your land, nor wrack nor ruin within your borders. The children of Abraham, the descendants of Isaac and Ishmael, have embarked together on a bold journey. Together, today, with all our hearts and all our souls, we bid them shalom, salam, peace.
As we have promised, we shall negotiate with you a permanent settlement, and with all our neighbors, a comprehensive peace, peace for all. We shall support the agreement with an economic structure. We shall convert the bitter triangle of Jordanians, Palestinians, and Israelis into a triangle of political triumph and economic prosperity. We shall lower our barriers and widen our roads so goods and guests will be able to move freely all over the places, holy and other places. This should be another Genesis. We have to build a new Commonwealth on our old soil, a Middle East of the people and a Middle East for the children. For their sake, we must put an end to the waste of arms race and invest our resources in education.
سيد الرئيس، أيها السيدات والسادة، في هذه اللحظات التاريخية الممزوجة بمشاعر الغبطة.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, in these historic moments, with feelings of joy that are mixed with a maximum sense of responsibility regarding events that are affecting our entire region, I greet you and I greet this distinguished gathering. I hope that this meeting in Washington will prove to be the onset of a positive and constructive change that will serve the interests of the Palestinian and the Israeli peoples. We have come to this point because we believe that peaceful coexistence and cooperation are the only means for reaching understanding and for realizing the hopes of the Palestinians and the Israelis. The agreement we will sign reflects the decision we made in the Palestine Liberation Organization to turn a new page in our relationship with Israel.
Ladies and gentlemen, we kindly ask that you remain seated during the document signing.
first one. I hope it's less than $40. President Clinton, the President of the United States, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this signing of the Israeli-Palestinian Declaration of Principle here today, it's not so easy. Neither for myself, as a soldier in Israel's war, nor for the people of Israel, nor to the Jewish people in the diaspora, who are watching us now with great hope mixed with apprehension. Ladies and gentlemen, the time for peace has come.
السيد الرئيس، سيداتي سادتي، أود أن أعبر عن تقديرنا الكبير.
In the name of God, the most merciful, the passionate, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to express our tremendous appreciation to President Clinton and to his administration for sponsoring this historic event which the entire world has been waiting for. This historic event which the entire world has been waiting for. This historic event which the entire world has been waiting for.
Well, as I mentioned there, Katan, that really was a historic event between the Palestinians and the Israelis. You might say that that handshake where Mr. Arafat reached out to shake Yitzhak Rabin's hand was the handshake seen around the world. You could see everybody kind of erupt there with joy and excitement when that agreement there was, and they actually shook hands, kind of signifying the agreement. But for them to come together and have this peace accord, and for the longest time they have been at odds. But as you mentioned earlier, Yisrael Hawkins mentioning that they would come to this time where they would sign a 7-year peace agreement. And what's interesting is that peace agreement, as we know, only went for 3.5 years. So we're looking for the last 3.5 years to start up. And, this being back in 1993, it's been a long time, and people might not realize that there is still half of that isn't completed. So it's really going to be interesting to see the second half of this. We see that some of these leaders have actually passed away since then, and new ones have taken their place, but that peace agreement still has the last 3.5 years from that signed deal to be completed. So very interesting times, very historic video that we just watched there, very interesting, great speeches that were made, and a lot of interesting things are yet to come. Well, if you'd like to find out more about these stories, you can contact the House of Yahweh, and when you do, don't forget to request your free copy of the Prophetic Word magazine and monthly newsletter. Here's how.
To contact the House of Yahweh, you can write them at the House of Yahweh, P.O. Box 2498, Abilene, Texas 79604. You can call them at 1-800-613-9494. Visit them on any of their websites by going to yahweh.com, YisraelHawkins.com, or Yahweh'sBranch.com. You can also visit our website by going to YPNnews.com. You can email the House of Yahweh at info@yahweh.com. And for all calls outside the United States, please dial the number on your screen. And to assist you in the study of the Holy Scriptures, including Bible prophecies that relate to this time period we're in, known as the last days or last generation, don't forget to check out the free programs, online programs that accompany the Holy Scriptures, the Yisrael Says program and the Ask Yisrael program, and you can find those by simply typing in YisraelSays.com and AskYisrael.com.
Well, get your Holy Scriptures and a notebook and something to write with. Up next is Yisrael Hawkins. From all of us here at YPN News, I'm Jeffrey Heimerman.
And I'm Katan Alexander.
Thanks for watching.